Stop. Don't skip. I want to try something. For the next 5 seconds, don't think. Ready? Go. Did you just think this is impossible? Or maybe, what is this guy talking about? Or maybe, fine, I'll try. Interesting. Because you didn't choose any of those thoughts. They just showed up. Steve has absolutely no idea that today he's about to discover something most people never notice. Not because it's hidden, because it's familiar. Steve wakes up, brushes his teeth, makes coffee, checks his phone. Nothing unusual, just another Tuesday. Until he decides to post something online, one sentence, that's all. He places his fingers on the keyboard, and then everything stops. A voice says, "Don't embarrass yourself." Another interrupts, "Just post it already." Before Steve can even react, a third one quietly whispers, "Imagine if this changed your life." Steve freezes. 3 completely different opinions, 3 different personalities, 1 brain. Here's the strange part. Steve never questions them, neither do you, because every one of those voices uses exactly the same word. I think, I should, I can't, I will. Every voice introduces itself as you, and that's where the illusion begins. The 3 voices secretly running your life. We spend our entire lives believing we have one mind, one inner voice, one narrator. But psychologists have known for decades that the brain isn't nearly that simple. Not because there are literally 3 people living inside your head, there aren't, but because different mental systems compete for one microphone. And whoever grabs it first usually makes the decision without asking permission. Let's see if that's true. Not with psychology. With you. Imagine you're about to send someone this message. "Can we talk?" Pause. What was the first thought that appeared? Not the second. The first. For a lot of people, it sounds something like, "What if they think I'm being weird?" Interesting. You weren't trying to think that. It simply arrived. Now imagine you win $100 million tomorrow morning. What's the first thing your mind did? Vacation? House? Quit your job? Start a business? Again, you didn't command that thought, it volunteered. Last one, your phone battery says 1%. What happened inside your head? Move. Find a charger. Turn on battery saver. Panic. Action. Immediately. 3 completely different situations. 3 completely different ways of thinking. And if you paid attention, they don't feel like the same person at all. Steve didn't notice it. Maybe you didn't either. But 3 different advisors just entered the meeting. Here's the mistake almost everyone makes. They think the loudest voice must also be the smartest. It isn't. Sometimes it's just the fastest. Imagine you're the CEO of a company. Every morning, 3 employees burst into your office. One shouts, "Everything is dangerous." Another shouts, "Move faster." The third says, "What if we built something nobody has ever seen?" Now imagine, every single day, you accidentally let the first employee through the door, become CEO, no interviews, no discussion, no vote, just whoever arrived first. Ridiculous, right? That's exactly how most of us make decisions. Steve still thinks he's deciding whether to post something. He isn't. He's deciding which voice gets the microphone. And until he realizes that, he'll keep confusing the loudest opinion with the truth. So, who are these voices? Let's meet the first suspect. Not because he's evil, because he usually speaks first. The critic. Meet the critic. He doesn't yell. He doesn't need to. He just states facts, cold ones. You're not ready. They'll notice the mistake. It's safer to wait. Here's what makes the critic dangerous. He's usually right, not about the future, about the risk. There genuinely is a chance Steve embarrasses himself. There genuinely is a chance people judge the post. The critic isn't lying to Steve. He's just only telling him half the story. Go back far enough, and then the critic wasn't a personality trait. He was survival equipment, the humans who assumed that Russell is probably nothing and didn't get the chance to have descendants. The ones who froze first, checked twice, assumed danger. Did. You are, quite literally, descended from warriors. The critic isn't a flaw in you. He's an inheritance. But here's his one blind spot. He can't tell the difference between a tiger and a comment section. To the critic, both feel like the same emergency. Public embarrassment, physical danger, same volume, same panic, same command. Don't move. So when the critic runs the meeting alone, uncontested, Steve doesn't get protected, he gets frozen. The cursor blinks. The message stays unsent. The idea stays a thought forever, because a thought can't fail. Only an action can, and the critic knows that. Which is exactly why he prefers Steve stay still. Nothing happens to a man who never moves. Nothing good either. Meet the doer. He doesn't debate. He doesn't wait for permission. Just send it. Figure it out later. Momentum beats perfect. And credit where it's due. The doer is often right, too, because overthinking kills more good ideas than bad execution ever has. You don't actually know if an idea works by staring at it. You know by shipping it. Every founder, every creator, every person who got lucky has a doer that refused to keep waiting for the perfect moment. But the doer has a blind spot, too. He doesn't plan. He doesn't proofread. He doesn't ask, should I? Only, why haven't I already? Give him the microphone with nobody else in the room, and you get speed, not necessarily direction. A fast car, no steering wheel. Steve posts something half-formed at 11:04 p.m. because the doer couldn't wait 4 more minutes for a second read. It's not that the doer is reckless on purpose. He simply doesn't have the part of the brain that checks. That's not his job. That's someone else's. Meet the dreamer. He isn't paying attention to the deadline, or the typo, or the risk. He's already 3 years into the future. Imagine if this became something huge. What if this is the thing that changes everything? Without the dreamer, nothing new ever gets attempted in the first place. Every business, every book, every idea that eventually worked started as a whisper nobody else could hear yet. The dreamer is the reason Steve wanted to post anything at all. But he has a blind spot too, maybe the quietest one. He doesn't do details, he doesn't answer emails, fix broken sentences, or file anything. Give him the microphone alone with nobody to interrupt. And you get beautiful plans that never leave the imagination. In dreamer mode, Steve doesn't fail, he just never starts, which, if you think about it, might be worse. A rejected idea teaches you something. An idea that only ever lived in your head teaches you nothing, except how to imagine, which you already knew how to do. So here's the honest question. Which voice is the correct one? Trick question. None of them. And all of them. The people who consistently finish things are the ones who actually ship, actually launch, actually send the message, aren't the ones who silence 2 of these voices. They're the ones who figured out the order. Dreamer first. Let him imagine without limits. No editing yet, no buts, critic second. Now let him in, but only to answer one question. What's the weakest part of this? Not give up, just what needs fixing? Doer last. Now and only now move, fast but informed. Same 3 voices, different sequence. Completely different outcome. Most people run this backwards. Critic first, so nothing ever starts. Or doer first, so nothing gets thought through. Steve's mistake every time was letting whoever showed up first run the whole meeting. Steve tries it differently this time. He lets the dreamer talk first, the whole vision, out loud, no judgment yet. Then he lets the critic in for one question only. What's the weakest part of this? Then finally he lets the doer finish the sentence. Same 3 voices. Just taking turns instead of shouting over each other. This isn't about reaching some perfectly silent mind. That's not how brains work. It's probably not even something you'd want. A critic with no voice leaves you reckless. A doer with no voice leaves you stuck. A dreamer with no voice leaves you empty. You don't need to mute any of them. You need to know who's talking. And whether it's actually their turn, remember the thought you had at the very beginning of this video, the one that said, "This isn't for me," or "Skip it," or "Fine, I'll try." Go back and think about it. Which voice was that? You didn't choose that thought. But from now on, you get to choose what happens next. You were never meant to pick one voice and silence the rest. You were meant to learn how to run the meeting. So next time those three voices start arguing in your head, you'll know exactly who's talking. The critic, protecting you. The doer, pushing you. The dreamer, reminding you why you started. None of them are the enemy. You just have to decide who gets to speak and when. If this made you see your own thoughts a little differently, subscribe. Because your mind runs the meeting every single day. Might as well learn how to lead it.